Hey everyone, Captain Amazing here, and today I want to talk about Omicron, so let's jump into it. I look at a lot of accounts, I'm making a free-to-play account, and I want to talk about a lot of Omicrons because I see, especially in the early game, I do say that I think a good ratio for GAC Omicrons to other Omicrons should be 4 to 1. If you're TW focused, then that's completely fine. You can absolutely go and have a primary focus for TW and have very few GAC Omicrons if that's what you want to do. But in the early game, there's some Omicrons that you should get regardless of if you're going to focus on TW later on or not. I would say if you're in mid game and you're in a TW focused guild or late game or end game, you should know if that's the way that you want to go. That's completely fine. But early game, to get into Kyber as fast as possible and get those resources, it's important that you have certain Omicrons so that you can have enough teams so that you can climb through the ranks, because even if you want to be TW focused later on, you still have to climb up. So for those that are end game and they have everything and they're still able to stay in Kyber because they have such a depth of their roster that it's not as big of a deal. It's a huge disadvantage, but they can still hang in Kyber 2, Kyber 1 with no problems, even though all their Omicrons are going towards TW, then that's completely fine. But in the early game, it's going to be huge for your income to try to climb up through the ranks as fast as possible. It's not as important as fleet currency in the early game, but it's still something that I think you should focus on. So the first Grand Arena Omicrons, and I get asked this all the time, I would say are these four. Not particularly in this order, you can go in whatever order you want, but characters like Savage and Darth Treya are extremely accessible. You can get Darth Treya through the raid, you get Savage through the arena shop, and then Qui-Gon Jinn, you can just farm him up really easily. And Wampa does take a little more time. He requires get 1 or Mark II currency, but you can still farm him relatively quickly to get access to them, because in the early game it's not like you're going to be getting a lot of these Omicron materials, so you don't want to waste them. So I say Treya and Savage are really good low gear. So if you're planning on just keeping it, if you're like hyper focused on finishing a GL or getting Executor or something like that, then I say Savage and Treya, excellent farms. If you're going for like something C related, or if you have the negotiator bundle, then with BAM or the gas bundle with a negotiator, so you have Jedi Knight Anakin, then Qui-Gon Jinn is going to be a must-have Omicron with Jedi Knight Anakin. Or for C, if you farm C, then you'll have a Jedi Knight Anakin. So this is an excellent early game Omicron, because that Jedi Knight Anakin Qui-Gon combo is really powerful. And then Wampa, you could just, I say, if you're looking, and I hear this all the time where people upgrade a league and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't have enough teams. What do I do for my offense and my defense? Like, these are solo characters right here, Savage and Wampa. Wampa is going to solo a good team for you all the way up until maybe Kyber 1 is when she starts getting boxed out. So these are valuable Omicrons that are going to be really, really valuable. And not only that, they're going to give you really clean banners. So when I climbed up from early game from, Carbonite, Bronzium, Chromium, or Rhodium, so I was using Wampa, Savage, and Malik to solo 3 teams. So that's pretty equivalent of up to 15 characters in 5v5, because they were all relic. They soloed a team, so that saved me a good amount of GP, where I was able to attack smartly, get excellent banners, and save on a lot of my characters, because I had these characters geared up, well modded, and they're ready to go to just solo teams. And that's why it's so important to have these. But again, if you're only going for gear 12, bang for your buck. Treya, Savage, absolutely. So Savage at gear 12 isn't going to solo CLS teams full relic CLS teams, but he is very, very, very difficult to kill. Even at gear 12, I've seen him tank against JML teams with Treya, so gear 12 Treya, gear 12 Savage with relic, with even gear 12 Nihilus, and then you have like Darth Vader in there and Talon, and that team absolutely can still beat JMLs because Savage is there as a tank, and he becomes near unkillable unless you have something that manipulates health damage, like courage stacks or something along those lines, or you just have to like really, really overpower him. So a really, really strong character. And then Wampa is really great. Wampa is going to solo a lot of teams, Mon Mothmas, Idens, just anything that doesn't pretty much put like tenacity down. Some bounty hunter teams, like Wampa is very, very effective. So this is going to give you that depth that you need in Grand Arena, and everyone has to play in Grand Arena. It's a valuable source of crystal income, so that's why I say it's important to focus on these Omicrons. I do see a lot of players go with TW Omicrons in the early game, and that's completely fine. If you bought the Geonosian bundles, if you bought the Padme bundles or the gas bundles, or if you farmed SOKR, or you bought Starkiller or farmed Starkiller, things like these are really good Omicrons, but I would say try to keep a 4-to-1 ratio, at least in the early game. So have 4 Grand Arena Omicrons to 1 to 2 TW Omicrons, and because it's important not to be selfish. And if you have all GAC Omicrons, then I would say like, hey, give back a little to your guild if you're playing in TW. Of course, consult with your guild, and if everyone's doing or like has this strategy and you're not participating in it, then you are hurting your guild overall, because it's an all or nothing thing with TW. So you have to go with what your guild is doing. So do the TW Omicrons that your guild is telling you to do, and then you can maximize on that. But TW Omicrons are not a waste. I think they're valuable in end game. It's more of the meta to do it, because at the top of the gauntlet, you have to have everything, and these Omicrons are very important there. Maybe not these in particular. I'm not in the gauntlet, so I don't know what really goes on in there, but I do know that TW Omicrons are very important to them, so they focus all their effort on that. But don't fall into that trap of going all TW, because there's some accounts I look at and they have like TW Omicron, TW Omicron, TW Omicron, and they don't have Wampa, they don't have Savage, they don't have Treya. They have a unupgraded Star Killer that doesn't have his Omicron. Like, you need to put your Omicrons on the characters that are going to be most beneficial to your account. These are early game ones, but there are absolutely characters that need them, like Riva, Star Killer, Ben Solo, Malgus. Those are more end game, late game kind of characters, but if you do get access to them, it's important that you have the Omicron so that they can perform the way they need to. Because if you have a Star Killer and he doesn't have his Omicron, it's kind of a useless character. So it's something to think about. All right, and then if you can see here, PVE. I don't have any of these PVE Omicrons. PVE Omicrons are not needed whatsoever. They're all absolutely luxury Omicrons. And I think in this economy of what we have for Omicrons, because they are the rarest materials in the game, you can't, like, you shouldn't do it. Like, some people still do it. Like, I've seen a lot of people that are like, Captain Amazing, this Padawan Obi-Wan Omicron is great, and it's allowing me to get through conquests, and I love it, and you know, everything like that. And hey, if that's how you feel, then go for it. Like, probably not early game. Get the core Omicrons for GAC, and then if you want to spend like one maybe on PVE, go for it. No one's gonna like, and I have talked to Agnards about this, and he has some of these TB ones because he believes that it's a return of investment. He can auto teams, and it elevates those teams for his the investment he gets back is his times, because you could just hit that auto button and it does its thing. I still don't think it's worth it personally. I would rather play a few minute TB match than drop 20 Omicrons, which takes me like a month to farm. So I personally don't think PVE Omicrons are worth it. Maybe in some rare cases in the beginning, like I know Bush Leia was good, and if you got her, it was 10 Omicrons, and then you were able to split the teams, and you got like great income for it. So there are some considerations for raid Omicrons, but consider this: we are a lot of people don't like Datacrons because it's temporary power. And if you put an Omicron on a raid character, there's no saying that raid character is ever going to be useful or that Omicron's ever going to be useful ever again. And I would say that more than likely it won't, because CG wants you to invest in another Omicron, so they don't want to like allow you to double dip in these, because people go in fully well knowing that if you place that Omicron, it's gone. So I would say if you use raid Omicrons and you don't like Datacrons because they're temporary power, it's the same equivalent for PVE. I know you do get more in like more points in the raid, which could equal to a higher box. And if that's the difference of your guild, if you all do it together and that's the difference of like upgrading boxes and then getting more income, then hey, that's just the cost that you got to pay. But if you're in the middle of a box, it's not going to make a big deal. And then you just like slap up the raid Omicron because you want the raid Omicron, then that's really a waste. So again, like for this raid stuff, it's like all or nothing. Like all your guilds doing it, they want max participation. They're going for like the last box or second last box or something, and it's going to be absolutely like a banger for your account for the next like 9 months. Then I could understand that. But if you're still getting like a crappy mid-tier box and you just wasted your Omicron just to get a little bit of boost for your score, then that's not good, and you're not going to have much improvement in your account because you're kind of throwing those away in the long term. And then conquest ones, I don't think conquest ones are good. Like you don't need sortie for droids. I get droid kills with sortie, even with like very weak droids. That they're all relic and everything, but they're not like heavily invested. I do have the Zetas on sortie because I'm a fool, I guess, and I invested in it. But while I was building the Leviathan, back before like Lightspeed bundles were a thing, and I had excess ones, but like. Omicrons, definitely not. Same thing with Padawan Obi-Wan. All the feats can be cheesed without him, and if you want to use him because I don't know, I don't get it. I personally don't feel like I love the prequels. I don't feel a strong connection with Padawan Obi-Wan in particular. So, and in general, Kenobi is my favorite character in the Clone Wars, or in Star Wars in general, but I still don't understand the whole Padawan Obi-Wan thing. I don't. So, yeah, if you want to, go for it, but definitely I don't advise it. I will say this, everyone who's equipped it has loved it, but I think it's an absolute luxury, and in this economy, luxuries are a huge waste. So definitely, I wouldn't be doing the TB ones. I wouldn't be doing Conquest ones. Please don't do the Galactic Challenge ones, the Gungan Galactic Challenge one. That's a huge waste. But you have to look at like, what are these Omicrons going to give you? TW, they're going to give you TW wins if you prioritize them with your guild. GAC is going to get you crystals. It could get you wins. A lot of actual resources. This is a lot of resources. All of these can be done absolutely without them, and it's even if you do succeed in what you're trying to do, it could either be done differently with very minimal investment, or it's not going to have any impact at all, and it's just like a pure luxury. So with all that being said, invest in Grand Arena Omicrons, at least in the beginning. Get the core ones, get some teams, because I promise you, there's going to be a few points throughout your Grand Arena careers that you're going to feel like you're not ready. And if you feel like you're not ready and you don't have Wampa, Savage, Traya, Qui-Gon, or any of the other Grand Arena Omicrons that really expand your roster, then you're losing out on easy potential investments that are going to stretch your roster but give you solid possibilities and opportunities to win. All right, so if you guys have a different opinion on Omicrons or when you should invest them, I know I'm probably going to get some hate in the comments from these Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi lovers who are going to be like, you're so wrong. Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi Omicron is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it rocks my world in conquest. And you know, like, hey, that's like your opinion, man. But like that's my opinion. So if you guys can let me know what you think about like my philosophy on Omicrons, if you have a different one, let me know. Otherwise, if you like this content, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.